Welcome to Skill Tree 101. My goal here today is to help you navigate the new skill tree system, understand it, and be informed as you are spending your skill points, and you can wisely do so to purchase different skills for your golfer. In this video, we're going to go over the basics of each skill, how it works, and if it is right or wrong for your game. Ultimately, you may want to test all of these skills, and you aren't able to purchase all of them with one golfer. Luckily, we're able to create multiple My Players, and we're able to do so. And at the very least, I'll showcase you them right here and now, so you may be able to make educated decisions when the time comes for you. So, first things first, you need skill points in order to purchase these said skills. So I am on the first one. It is T. There's T, approach, recovery, bunker, green, and then clubhouse pass. That is completely separate. We're not going to cover that today. Maybe a video down the road, but let's cover the basic ones and all of the other 5 categories. As you can see, I have 6 skill points available. I have used 124 out of my allotted 130. You will get up to 500 skill points as you progress your golfer. You can see I am a level 26 currently, and each level you are gaining 5 skill points that you are allotted to then spend on various skills. From there, you can navigate your way through the skill tree down. So the first one is tee shot. If I went to the left, I could purchase choke tee shot, but in order to unlock this, I need these other skills ahead of it. So these are all prerequisites. And then finally, for each skill tree, so the tee, approach, recovery, bunker, green, each one of these is tied to an archetype. So the tee is tied to the powerhouse archetype. Now, I have all my characters at 85 overall, but you will see in the right-hand corner of your screen, it says requires previous skill. It'll also say on yours, if you are first playing the game, requires overall 85 and a powerhouse archetype. So you have to unlock each one of these skills with that archetype. Now, we won't get into the details right now of how you get these specific ones unlocked. Let's just showcase each and every skill, and then I'll tell you the strategy I used to unlock the final skill ability for all of them. Now, it shows locked, but I have the ability to purchase on any of the My Players. Now, I'm going to start with Tony Finau to show you some of the driver types, as he is the powerhouse build. So this is his standard driver. You'll see on the right-hand side how big his forgiveness areas are. But then when I toggle back and forth to power drive, which is the last skill that you're going to get in that tree, you can see how drastically those forgiveness areas shrink. So if you are playing on a higher difficulty, it does make it, they're less of an incentive to use this shot. Now, obviously, as you see, I'm toggling back and forth. It does give you an 18-yard additional carry, at least on his, I'm sure that's percentages. It may not be exactly 18. It may be 15 or 20, depending on how your overall power attribute is. But regardless, his tee shot to his power drive, big forgiveness, it's about half change there. So if you're very good and you're hitting your contact every time, then sure, maybe this power drive is useful to you. To me, it seems a little bit of a harsh penalty, and we're not going to necessarily need that, right off the bat. Maybe end game, sure. But so it might be a nice to have type thing. The other ability that Tony Finau has is the choked tee shot. Now, the interesting thing I find here is it shaves 3 yards off of his drive. Now, if I was thinking of a choked tee shot, I was hoping this might shave 20 to 30 yards off his drive, so you have that weird in-between number. Like if he's driving at 294 carry, now he might drive it, let's say 270 carry, which is maybe the perfect number for a short par 4, or where bunkers come into play at 300 yards. You can just perfectly hit it right before that. But it's only a 3-yard difference, and I can just simply move my marker in and try to hit 98%, where I'm probably able to do that relatively regularly. So I don't find the choke tee shot all too helpful. And on top of that, I was hoping that it would be an increase on forgiveness, and rather this is a decrease on forgiveness. So to me, this is not a shot type that I am going to be targeting. Okay, I'm back here with Tiger Woods, and now we're going to showcase you the Stinger tee shot. So this is something that Tiger does have unlocked. The first thing you'll notice, it's about a 30-yard difference, 29 to be exact, for his driver. Each club is progressively, that margin shrinks, and it's not going to be exactly 29. But what you'll notice is the run out is significant on a Stinger. And if you are trying to play into a wind, maybe you're playing a links course, this shot can be extremely useful to hold the ball under the wind and get you a really nice rollout. So that was supposed to be a 216 carry. Let's see how much. This has a nice crosswind too, so actually hit 230-ish, and that's going to roll out almost 20 yards. So a 3-iron for Tiger Woods with 20 yards of rollout goes 215, and that was kind of into the wind. That's a cross breeze. So don't sleep on the Stinger. It is obviously a cool looking shot and can be kind of useful. Okay, here we are with Brooke Henderson to start reviewing the approach shots. Now, she has all 7 of them. Let me check. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's the approach, choked approach, off the deck, knockdown, pitch, runner, and spinner. So there's a lot of options in the approach category that we're going to go over. So first off, you can see I'm toggled to the regular approach. If I go to choked approach, it's a 4-yard difference. So once again, not much difference. The forgiveness is about the same. So I don't know. I don't really see the need for the choked approach. So yeah, choose it if you'd like, I'd say. What I will showcase here is the ultimate or the final approach one, which is a knockdown. So let's hit a knockdown, which is only available to middle irons, to long irons, and some hybrids. I want to showcase a knockdown here, which goes a low ball flight and minimal rollout. So this shouldn't roll, even though it's uphill. That's gonna check up pretty nicely for a 5-iron there. So definitely could be a useful shot, similar to it's almost like an approach Stinger, if you will. However, it reduces the rollout instead of increases the rollout. So the low ball flight, but it's gonna grab a little bit better. Something I kind of find useful. Is it worth all the skill points to get there? I'll leave that up to you. It is a nice little shot to have. Okay, the other key one that Brooke Henderson does have is off the deck. Now this one can be very, very useful. It is going to display the same carry distance, 277, that she receives off the tee. The lie percentage, which actually isn't shown here, is probably somewhere in the 90% range. It's a nice fairway shot. This can be very useful. I intentionally laid up so we could display this and the rollout. Let's see how far we can hit this. So this is going to carry to 60, 70-ish with a bunch of rollout. So she's hitting that 300 yards, which even in a competitive environment, the forgiveness area seemed wide enough to me that it could be very useful. So definitely one that you might want to consider having in the bag. Okay, 2 other shots. There's 3 other shots to show you from the approach category. The spinner, which in my opinion might be the best shot in the game. We'll see if they modify it because it seems almost a little too good. There's also a runner. Runner might be, I think the runner is actually, yeah, that's locked to a 9-iron or longer. So we're not going to use that right here. And then your standard pitch shot. So your standard pitch shot's going to have a little bit of rollout. So let's do that one first. So I landed that early on the green, and that's gonna, even from the fairway, that's really has no spin, no checkup. All right, and I'm chipping it back down the hill over here just so we can see a spinner from the same location. So roughly the same location. Now I'm gonna try a spinner. Let's put that a few yards before. And 1, 2, and check. Nearly hole it on the spinner. That's just how good and how much control you can get out of a spinner shot, and is definitely my recommendation for one that you should target right off the bat. Okay, the final shot that I'm going to show you is the runner, which is locked to your irons. You can't really use it on a pitching wedge. Figured this was a back pin location, might be a good one to showcase. Kind of nice if you're trying to flight it maybe under the wind. I do have a tailwind here, so I'm not anticipating this to be all that great, but let's kind of see how this looks. I'm trying to hit the front of the green and then just let it release back there. Like I said, if that was underneath the wind pushing up against me, that shot might be really, really useful. Not one that I'm necessarily going to target right off the bat. I'll let you make the call if you want to go after that one. Now let's take a look at the recovery shot section. There are 5 of them. Tiger has all of them. They are punch, choked punch, recovery, flop, and super flop. Recovery being the one that you get last. Let's take a quick look at the different ones here. Starting with the punch shot, you can kind of use that with any club around. It's going to be a low flighted ball. If you can hit it under trees, great. It's going to be, you're going to be sacrificing some distance. So my 9-iron's 149 as opposed to a standard approach is 159. Overall, not a bad shot to have in the bag. You're going to have that unlocked automatically. And like the other choked shots, choked punch, yeah, it shaves 5 yards off. I'm not really seeing too much of a use for it. Ball flight and everything about the physics is essentially the same, just the club goes a little bit shorter. What I do find interesting is, okay, so there's your approach. Let's look at the recovery shot. That gray area is much, much bigger. So when you are hitting out of the rough, you will have a much larger forgiveness window on top of your lie percentage changes. If you look down the bottom right-hand corner, you see it says 89 to 97% as opposed to the standard approach 86 to 96. So it's marginally better. It's not, that's 1% on a range. If you get into some lower ones, like say you have a 67% lie, maybe it bumps it up to 70%, so like a couple percent, but it certainly does help. So it's kind of a nice to have in the bag. Do I think it's super important? Probably not. If you're needing that much forgiveness on either side with that gray zone, you're probably playing at a lower difficulty level. So maybe if you're at a lower skill level, you're just starting the game, which obviously is completely fine. It may be something that is more warranted, but there it is right there. Okay, here we are on the back of the green, same hole. Tiger does have the flop as well as the super flop. So super flop, you can go up to, it has to be one of your wedges. So it has to be at least a pitching wedge. And you can go up to 18 yards. You can see how narrow the forgiveness in that perfect zone is. And even a flop for that matter. Your perfect meter does increase a little bit. The gray area actually shrinks on the flop. That could be just more specifics if you have the different boosts for the particular shot type, the flop or the super flop. So that could be a reference to that. The super flop goes 18 yards here with the pitching wedge. So that's about as long as you can get it. The flop is going to go as long as 33 yards. Let's take a look at what the flop looks like. Lands 22, rolls out to 24. All right, I tossed the ball back in the same spot, and now we're going to just show you the super flop, what that has in store for you. Watch how high this one goes. Lands 12 and just stops right on a dime. But note, I'm playing on perfect swing here, so I can demonstrate these shots for you. I clearly missed my contact on that. The flop and super flop are very, very difficult to execute. You're always hitting your contact points, then sure, these are going to be very useful shots to have around the green, but there is a huge risk reward. Let me show you what it looks like if you do miss. Okay, I'm bumping up the settings here to master swing difficulty, okay? So we can take a look at what the super flop miss looks like, okay? I'm going to intentionally try to miss this a little bit. And we'll see what happens here. I mean, not the worst thing in the world. The animation does have the same rollout. Obviously, I was I was 23% off or degrees off at the bottom there and not too far off the top. So, I mean, this result, for all things considered, wouldn't be that bad. So at the end of the day, yeah, super flop, pretty nice to have. Okay, now let's take a look at Max Homa, who has all of the bunker shots unlocked. There are only 4. The Splash, which everyone will have, Power Pick, Blast, and Pick. Now, Pick is probably the reason you would be choosing this, and it is a very powerful shot around the green as it has a lot more spin control than the native splash shot. Now I do have an uphill slope here, pretty decent lie. Let me show you what a 60-degree splash looks like. 14, and look at that rollout. I mean, obviously I had a ton of green to work with, and that was obviously a really nice shot, but that rolled out 10 yards. All right, we're back here with Homa on one of the next holes, and let's test out the pick shot to show you the difference here. I'm going to try to aim for 11 yards and see what happens. 11, and that stopped before the hole. So going from 10 yards of rollout, now I know this was a little bit upslope and everything, so maybe there's a little bit of, you know, it's not the exact same shot. I'm, you know, not comparing apples to apples here, but it's pretty darn close. Ultimately what I'm trying to say is the pick shot, extremely powerful, ton of spin, and I didn't put any loft or spin additionally to that shot around the green. Extremely, extremely useful to have, and is probably the #1 premium skill that I would target. Okay, one of the last greenside bunker shot is the blast shot. So let's take a look. This one is going to have a lot more rollout. Not that you necessarily need it because the standard splash shot kind of has a lot, but let's see what happens. I'm going to land this into an upslope, so it's going to kill it a lot. So even with that, let's see how much this runs out. So yeah, he has that lower trajectory. It's kind of that chunk and run that you would hear some people play. That thing still rolled out 10 yards, and that was all uphill into an uphill slope. So once again, kind of a nice to have shot. Are you going to use it frequently? Probably not. All right, here we are, and we're going to test out the final bunker shot, which is a fairway bunker shot, and it's called the Power Pick. This should have reduced rollout out of the fairway bunkers. So I'm going to take I'm going to club up here because we do have a 94% lie on the higher end, and see if I can hit the green here. Let's see, this is downwind too, so keep that in mind. 165 kind of checks up a little bit there. It only rolled out 11 yards, and that was downhill downwind. I'm back at the same spot, and I'm going to hit my standard approach shot, trying to do the exact same thing without that power pick. Should hit roughly the same part of the green. No movement. Not that much different. Maybe if you shot shape the power pick, it could be a little bit more useful. Not necessarily something I need to have. Okay, and jumping right into the final section of the skill tree, we have the putting and chipping area. So all around the green, you will notice, or maybe you haven't, but Max Homa does have the green reader, the final ability for that skill set unlocked. So the green grids are a little bit smaller, easier to read. I do think this is kind of a nice little perk to have. All right, for comparison's sake, here I am with my player who does not have that green reader ability. You can see how far, let me see, does my mouse show? Here we go. How much room is behind my player's feet as opposed to with Max Homa. So I'll let you make the call on whether or not green reader is useful enough for you to purchase. All right, we're back here on the green, so let's take a look at the other shop types or other skills aside from the green reader now. So the standard one is going to be putt, and then lag putt. Lag putt is going to sacrifice accuracy for distance forgiveness. So you can safely get close to the cup. I don't visually see that on the attributes over here, but I'm just going to kind of take their word for it. So maybe if I go like way under swing, I was 77% instead of 80. It's not going to be as penalizing, is kind of my thought. If I use the lag putt on something of that nature, I really haven't found a great reason where you would use the lag putt. Definitely not something that I'm going to target. All right, we're back with Homa, and the other one for putting and around the green is going to be Texas Wedge. If you notice, as I toggle on my putter back and forth off the green, you'll see that maximum, the bottom right is going to indicate 130 feet to 1160 feet. So it just really lets you absolutely hammer the ball from off the green, so you get additional distance. A standard putt is only going to carry so far. I feel like you're going to really have to fine tune and find certain instances where you would want to use a Texas wedge. And the other thing too is a lot of your putts on the green, or always your putts, are going to be preset at a default distance. When you're off the green, the fairway does change the roll. It's going to be reduced on how well it rolls. It's not the putting surface. So you're going to have to like take a guess, like, hey, maybe I have to push it out to like, here for the right distance for this putt. Now you can use it, and yeah, see, I overcooked that one a little bit. Maybe on some of these link style courses. Fun one to have, fun one to play around with. If I'm going to be a competitive person, am I going to necessarily have that in the bag? Probably not, because I'm going to be using some sort of spinner or something along the lines around the green. I feel like I'm not going to be utilizing the Texas wedge as much as I'd like, and I do like the Texas wedge, and I just think that the standard putter is where I would be using it more often. For example, if I was right here off the green, I don't need the Texas wedge. Let's putt this backwards a few feet, or maybe, yeah, I mean, I'm technically on the fringe here, right? But even to go back, another yard, let's go back a couple yards here. All right, so now we're officially on the fairway. I can club down to the putter, and it's a downhill putt, so I think, typically I would take some off of this and just putt right through. Did that come out the best? I probably could have added a little bit more pace, but I used my standard putter there. I didn't need a Texas wedge. So if I am looking to putt off the green, I feel like those are the circumstances I'm going to do it. So probably not something that you're going to need. All right, the final shot type, we are finally here, is going to be the bump and run. So standard chip, I guess we didn't really show a standard chip. Standard chip is probably what I'm going to use here, and or a pitch or a spinner. But if you want, bump and run's kind of similar to like punch shots and such. I just not really sure how frequent I'm going to use it, but it's kind of a fun one to have, if you will. Toggle to it. You have to get to at least a 9-iron to use the bump and run, but you can trickle this right on the green, and I feel like this would be a situation where it's a back pin. You can chip it up there. Have to fine tune it and figure out, okay, maybe you want an 8-iron, 7-iron, some sort of middle iron. If you want to play around with that. I mean, I know I use this quite frequently in real life. Like if I was in that spot in real life, I'm maybe hitting an 8-iron, little bump and run, and that's like the nice safe play to get it tucked up nice to the hole. If you just try to want to mimic yourself in real life, that's kind of what that shot is. I don't necessarily think you're missing out too much, because you have a lot of other options. You could have chipped there, you could have pitched it, you could have used a spinner. There's multiple ways to get to the hole, so definitely not something you need. Okay, so all that being said, we've now reviewed all of the different skills that you can unlock. What would I choose, I guess, is my recommendations. Now, one thing to mention is these proficiency boosts are very important. It's going to double that sweet spot of your perfect area. So for me particularly, I miss my contact and I miss my swing path quite frequently. So I am going to try to purchase these on all the shot types that I do use. So my tee shot, I'm probably going to get those. Stinger, it's a nice to have, kind of like that in the bag. Choke tee shot, as I mentioned, any of the choked, those are out. I'm just avoiding them at all costs, unless someone proves to me otherwise why I need a choked tee shot or choked any shot. I don't really see the purpose. I understand it, but I don't feel like there's that much benefit in this game. Power drive, I'm going to ignore. So I think in this bracket, I'm going to fill up my tee area and maybe touch on stinger and get some of the boosts here. But there are more important ones that I will do, and I probably will respec everything, at some point. Keep in mind, you're going to have 500 total skill points once you max out at level 99. It's going to take a long time to get there, so don't anticipate on getting there in a few days. Approach shot, we'll probably max out those areas because we are going to be using our standard approach quite a bit. Choked approach, once again, not going to touch. Off the deck, you have to go through the choked approach to get it. So off the deck is pretty nice to have. So I'm going to consider that. But I would just go through. I would not buy these areas over here. So the proficiency boost for choked approach, and then maybe get off the deck. It's going to be tough to waste skill points on choked approach though. Knockdown's kind of nice to have, but it's also going to cost you 24 skill points. I'm probably going to forego that, but if there's enough to have it, maybe I just barely get it, and I probably won't get the proficiency boost because it's going to cost you an extra 8 and 16 to get those. Spinner, absolutely. I'm going to max that out 100%. Runner, I think I'm just going to run through it as I did in this model because I don't anticipate using it all too frequent. So these proficiency boosts won't be as important. I feel like I would need those skill points. Pitch shot, I can maybe forego some of these proficiency boosts. I feel like pitch shots are forgiving enough around the greens that I might not splurge to grab those, but we'll circle back on that, and they are only 4 each. But once again, we'll need to map it fully out. Flop, super flop, I don't think I'm going to do anything with those because the degree of difficulty that it takes to execute those shots, I'm just going to try to manage and not be in a situation where I need those. I do have the flop in the bag if I ever want to try it. And quite frankly, the sweet spot is so small to begin with, I fully anticipate on missing it. And as I did with that super flop, it had the animation of the flop, which is all I really care about. I'm not real, as long as it kind of gets onto the green and it's not going to have this massive rollout, that's going to be good enough for me for as infrequent in a round as I will use it. Punch shot and choke punch, I'm not even going to bother with either one of those. I just don't feel like I used the punch shot in past games, and I don't feel like there'll be a common occurrence where I will use it. So I will definitely forego those. Unfortunately, recovery shot I won't be touching because I just don't see either of these paths. I do like the shot. It's nice to have, but at 24 skill points, it's going to be something I forego. So I think I'm not going to touch the recovery at all. Bunker, I'm definitely going to get the pick, max out the pick. This one is very nice around the green. Power pick, I think I'm just going to buzz through it. The blast, didn't really find it that much different than the splash, so I'll probably get the boosts on splash if I have enough. Once again, they're only 4 apiece, like it was for the pitch. So where it's a frequent shot, I would imagine between, if I'm green side, I'm going to be using this and pick shot. Those are really the only 2 options. So it would be nice to have be as proficient at each as possible. And then finally, green. So we're going to want to max out chip. We're going to be chipping a lot. Max out putt. We're going to be putting a lot. Lag putt, I really don't see the need for it. Bump and run, don't really see the need for it. Texas wedge, as I mentioned, don't really see the need for it. And then green reader, it's nice, but you have to go through and unlock all this other stuff, so I probably won't be grabbing it. You know, I'm just trying to be as cautious with my skill points as possible. If I have extras at the end, I might map out where, okay, maybe I can just buzz through and I'll grab bump and run, Texas wedge, and green reader, but I'm not going to have these proficiency boosts. The ones that I definitely want though are pick. Going back to approach, I'm definitely gonna get the spinner. Maybe I'll max out the runner so I can, you know, have that in the bag. Max out all of these other things like approach. And then maybe, once again, like I mentioned, driver off the deck. That would be really nice to have in the bag, especially on these long par 5s. You saw with Brooke Henderson how far you can hit that. And knockdown is also nice. So this is kind of where you can kind of do your own experimenting, see which ones you like best. Play with the pros. Test those shots out for yourself. See which ones you like. Comment down below. Tell me which ones you like. And then Clubhouse Pass we'll get to another day. The tie spinner is the first one. That's a whole nother discussion though. So let's stick with these 5 assets. Final thing that I wanted to mention, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the video of getting into the details of how I would recommend approaching this, is all of these final skills, if you will, of each archetype. So the T would be powerhouse, approach would be magician, I think. So forth and so on, are going to require you to get to an 85 overall from that particular archetype to unlock that skill. Now, after you unlock it, you can then unlock it with that one archetype. You can then use it for any archetype you have. So it's almost like you have to go through and get every character to 85, get that skill, and then you can start building your player to be whatever you want. The quickest way to do that, and I will show you my player section, is get one person to 90 overall. At 90 overall, it unlocks the rebirth feature. And the rebirth feature unlocks enough skill points that you can level up your character to 75 overall or 74 overall without spending any VC. If you happen to have VC laying around, you can buy your way all the way up to like 85 overall. So immediately, then you can get that skill, and then you theoretically, you know, I used Magician on mine, but I just, you know, create a new character for Powerhouse, and I went in, unlocked the power drive, and now I can go back into Magician if I wanted to and unlock that skill. So the key is to get to rebirth first, get to 90 overall, and then for each subsequent archetype, then go for 85 overall and unlock that skill. And now where I'm at, I can then figure out which one I want to use, which I think can't see it right here, but it's going to be the bottom one, Technician. That one has the best contact, swing path, forgiveness natively. You can obviously use different fittings and stuff, but that's a whole nother discussion. The native contact and swing path that are built into Technician seem like it's most important to me, so I'm going to try to build out my final character around that. Whether or not I use those final skills from the other archetypes, I'm not 100% sure at this moment, but I do have the ability. So that's how I would go and approach that. If you've really enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot to me. If you stuck around this far, please like, maybe subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be putting out tons of PGA Tour 2K25 content, and we will see you next time.